I was just 13 years old girl when the United States dropped the first atomic bomb on my city of Hiroshima. I remember that morning vividly. At 8:15, I saw a blinding bluish-white flash. I remember having the sensation of floating in the air. When I regained the consciousness in the total darkness and silence, I found myself pinned under the collapsed building. I knew I was faced with death. I began hearing faint voices of my classmates around me. Mother, help me. God, help me. Then all of a sudden, somebody shook my left shoulder from behind. The man saying, "Don't give up, keep pushing, keep kicking." You see the sun ray coming through that opening. Crawl toward it as quickly as possible. As I crawled out, the rubble was on fire. To the officials of nuclear weapon nations and to their accomplices under the so-called nuclear umbrella, I say this: listen to our testimony. Heed our warning. And know that your actions are consequential. You are each an integral part of the system of violence that threaten humankind.
Hello everyone, this is Kiki George. Please listen. I was deeply impressed by her passionate appeal, but I can't agree with her speech completely, because the presence of nuclear arms threatens Japan at all times by China, North Korea, America, and so on. If you don't mind my saying so, that our country, Japan, is not the accomplice of the nuclear armed nations, and Japan is not also the integral part of a system of violence endangering humankind. Sure, she has a good point, but there is another side. She said that, but still, some refuse to see Hiroshima and Nagasaki as atrocities, as war crimes. They accepted the propaganda that these were good bombs that had ended the just war. I also think so. It's nothing but mess. Nuclear weapons that America dropped are not anything but the instrument of the terrible massacre of unarmed civilians on Hiroshima and Nagasaki. Nevertheless, is Japan an accomplice? I have to say, to all those who think that Japan is an accomplice, if you treat the two countries, America and Japan, equally, what a rude, outrageously you are. America is an assailant. Conversely, Japan is a victim. Her statement is nothing short of rudeness for all Japanese in the past, all present Japanese, and even for the Japanese to come, who have nothing to do with the war. I want you to have a look at the fact. Japan is a great country that decided to coexist with the former enemy by generosity, while more than 250,000 people of our folks have been burned to ashes by 2 atomic bombs. And despite 2 unprecedented disasters, Japan is the only one country that has achieved the resurrection. Both facts are the first remarkable feat of the humankind history. In conclusion, I don't want to live in the world just removed nuclear weapons. I want to survive the world in peace as well as possible. So, I'll suggest you the best way that will not initiate atomic warfare. Watch me. It's like the black attache case. Obama's SP Health. Leave or the button that nuclear powers press to activate the nuclear weapon to Japan. There are three major reasons, namely high intelligence, safe, high moral sense. One, as you can see, Japanese technologists are the smartest in the world. So the nuclear buttons are managed safety in Japan. 2. Japan is safe. All the people in the world can trust the administrators of the management, and none of Japanese are not gonna attempt the stealing of it. 3. Japanese nations that battery confidence. Have you heard the Setsuko's vivid testimony?
Procession of ghostly figures shuffled by. Grotesquely wounded people, they were bleeding, burned, blackened, and swollen. Parts of their bodies were missing. Flesh and skin hung from their bones. Some with their own eyeballs hanging in their hands. Some with their bellies burst open, their intestines hanging out. The foul stench of burnt human flesh filled the air. Thus, with one bomb, my beloved city was obliterated. Most of its residents were civilians who were incinerated, vaporized, carbonized. Among them, members of my own family and 351 schoolmates of mine. Whenever I remember Hiroshima, the first image that comes to my mind is my 4-year-old nephew, Eiji. His little body transformed into an unrecognizable melted chunk of flesh. He kept begging for water in a faint voice until his death released him from agony.
We have known the pain by violent death more deep than any country's people in the world. It's okay. To the nuclear armed nations, the other nations, I say this: leave the buttons to us. Trust Japan. Please don't worry. By all means, Japan. Please take the plunge and put all the nuclear buttons in the hands of Japan. Remember Setsuko's words. Don't give up. Keep pushing. See the light. Close towards it. Come on. Pass all the nuclear buttons. is just a light for our one precious world to survive. Let's live peacefully together. Thank you. Bye bye.